Hello YouTube, CivilianSnowman here, and it's time to show you guys my top 10 films of the decade. Okay, so number 10, that has to go to Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds. Absolutely love the film. It's a fascinating exercise in tension, as I mentioned in my review and in my top 10 of the year video, so I'm not going to say much more about that, but Inglourious Basterds is definitely my number 10. Number 9 is Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth. I absolutely love this film. It's a beautiful masterpiece in my opinion. It's beautiful to look at. It's just beautiful to watch. It's quite an experience. I'm not usually a fan of fantasy films unless they're done right. And I think that the dark and adult approach that Del Toro takes to it is really fascinating for Pan's Labyrinth. It's Guillermo del Toro's best film in my opinion, out of what I've seen. The only film of his I haven't seen at the time of recording this video is The Devil's Backbone, but I doubt it'll be better than Pan's Labyrinth because it really is his masterpiece. Number 8 is a film by Shane Meadows, and that is This Is England. Now, I have to say, for all you guys out there who don't live in England, I honestly believe that this is the most accurate representation of England that I've seen on screen, at least for where I live. It really is a phenomenal drama. It's a tearjerker at times. It makes you laugh, makes you cry, all that stuff, but it's fantastic. It's Shane Meadows' best film. It proves that British movies don't have to be about Cockney gangsters, you know. We are capable of telling stories other than that. This Is England follows the story of a young boy who gets kind of dragged into, not gang culture, but gets dragged into some pretty shady shit, you know, during the 80s, during the Falklands War. He's lost his dad in the Falklands War and he's basically rebelling, but it goes to some dark places. It questions race and everything and politics. It's a fascinating movie, well worth checking out, so that's This Is England. Number 7 is a film I've reviewed for YouTube, and that is Donnie Darko. I won't say too much about it because obviously I've reviewed it, so check out the review over there. A brilliant film, absolutely love it. A sci-fi film. I see it as a comic book movie more than anything because it does have the structure of a comic book movie. A lot of people kind of don't get it because it is kind of a mindfuck, but I highly recommend the director's cut. I think it is the superior cut of the movie. It adds a few more layers and clears a few things up. There are changes I still would make to this version, but it's probably the best version of the film out there. Highly recommend this DVD of it as well because it comes with a commentary track by Richard Kelly, the director, and special guest Kevin Smith. And the way the two of them dissect the film is really fascinating and funny and all that stuff. But yeah, it's one of my favourite comic book movies, and I highly recommend it to any fans of sci-fi and, like I said, graphic novels, whatever. Donnie Darko is well worth picking up, so yeah, highly recommended. Number 6 is a double whammy, and it is Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill movies, Volume 1 and 2. The reason they both get number 6 is because they are really one film split into two. That's how he always envisioned it, as one movie. So they're getting the same spot on the list. Kill Bill really speaks for itself. It is a wonderful, magical blend of old kind of Western Kung Fu stylings. It's brilliant, the use of music, the acting. Uma Thurman as the bride is absolutely astonishing. I don't think she received an Oscar nomination for the film, but she should have done, because her performance is absolutely brilliant. It's probably, I would say it's safe to say that Kill Bill is the best chick flick ever made. Number 5 is a film that I reviewed for the Cigarette Burns channel, the group channel I set up, and it is Requiem for a Dream. Darren Aronofsky's best film in my opinion. Yes, better than The Wrestler. Absolutely love it. It's a really fascinating look at how addiction affects the lives of the addicts and the people around them, and basically it's about 4 addicts, not necessarily just addicted to drugs, but it also deals with addiction to television and all this stuff, all these different things, addiction to food. So it's about these 4 addicts who basically tumble down the rabbit hole and then end up destroying themselves. It's really difficult to watch, but it is fascinating. It's oddly beautiful. It's got my favourite film score ever in it, and it's just an experience that you will not forget. Number 4 is my favourite David Fincher movie, and that is Zodiac. It basically focuses on the Zodiac killer in San Francisco in the 60s and 70s. It's a fascinating police procedural because it's made using the real case files. They literally, to the last detail, reconstructed the case to the point where they had to rebuild a national park because because of the erosion that's happened since the killings took place. And so they had to move trees around and get it, you know, to get it just like it was when the murders happened. So that attention to detail really comes through in the film, because it's almost like you're travelling back in time. It's so authentic. The CGI is absolutely brilliant, because you can't tell what's CGI and what isn't. That's why it's good, you know. It's filmed on digital, which for a period movie I was unsure about, but this is one of the only examples that I can think of that I actually like the use of digital camera work in a period film. It's just astonishing. The acting in it is brilliant by Mark Ruffalo, Jake Gyllenhaal, and especially Robert Downey Jr. And I just like the fact that it doesn't go all Hollywood on the Zodiac story. You know, it is realistic, it is how it happened. It's based on the book written by Jake Gyllenhaal's character in real life. So it has that kind of personal touch to it as well. So it's a fascinating film. It's definitely David Fincher's masterpiece. I prefer it to Fight Club anyway. And I highly recommend it to anybody who hasn't seen it. Definitely go out and check Zodiac. Also, it's the best picture I've ever seen on HD. This Blu-ray is the best picture I've ever seen, so it's definitely worth picking up. So yeah, that's Zodiac. Now it's time for my third favourite film of the decade, and that is Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood. Absolutely amazing film. It's about Daniel Plainview, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, who is an oil tycoon, basically selling his soul to the devil in order to get oil, and it's about how his greed leads to the destruction of the people around him and his own soul. It's a really fascinating character study. It's quite heartbreaking, but his performance is astonishing. The cinematography is beautiful, it looks gorgeous in HD. I highly recommend it to any fans of film who haven't already seen it. I mean, if you haven't already seen this movie, shame on you, because it's astonishing. That brings me to number 2, which is the Coen brothers' No Country for Old Men. This film is fantastic. The Coen brothers have always been really good at thrillers, and especially Fargo is the one that springs to mind, along with Blood Simple. Those are two fantastic thrillers. The Coen brothers really know how to handle the human element of a thriller story, and basically they take everything that they've learned over their careers through cinematography, the use of music or lack thereof, and everything else that they've always done really well, and put it into one movie. It's an absolute masterpiece. It deserved every single one of the Oscars that it was rewarded. It features brilliant performances across the board from Josh Brolin, Tommy Lee Jones, and especially Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurh, the kind of assassin type fella who's basically just pure evil and kills because he enjoys doing it. Highly recommend the film. It's about Josh Brolin's character Llewellyn Moss, who finds a group of dead bodies in a suitcase full of money, takes the money, and it deals with the Coen brothers' much loved theme of how greed will bring you down. So a similar theme to There Will Be Blood, and that's why these two films are in my top 10 of the decade. My number 1 of the decade is a film that I haven't yet had the balls to review because I'm kind of intimidated by the idea of reviewing it, but that is The Dark Knight. Now, I haven't had the feeling of watching a movie like basically when I watched Terminator 2 for the first time, I felt something growing. You know, something happened to me when I watched Terminator 2, and I haven't had that feeling again until I watched The Dark Knight. It's just a phenomenal film. It's the best blockbuster of the decade. It's the best film of the decade. It's obviously a comic book movie, but has an adult edge to it. Imagine Michael Mann directed a comic book movie. It's basically everything I love in film. It's got a great hero, played brilliantly by Christian Bale. It's got my favourite villain of all time, the Joker, played by the late great Heath Ledger. Directed by Christopher Nolan, who really takes the practical effects stand on things. So when you see like trucks flip over and car chases, it's all done for real. He doesn't use CGI, and it really draws you in. The use of IMAX imagery will make your pants wet watching this movie. It's just astonishing. Basically, if you haven't seen it, what's wrong with you? It's the best film of the decade by far, in my opinion, so you have to see The Dark Knight. That is definitely my number 1. So those films are my top 10 of the decade. As before, please leave comments letting me know what yours are and all that stuff. Thanks to everybody who rates, comments and subscribes. I hope you've enjoyed this video. This is Civilian Snowman signing out. I'll see you later. Bye.